James Gunn's Superman has officially come out at the box office. Was it good? Was it a hit? Was it a flop? And more importantly, what does it mean for the future of the DC universe? We're going to get into all that right now. Welcome, everybody, to the Sundowners Club. And we have been waiting, my co-host and me, Sterling, for Superman to come out just like all of you. And the opinions have been mixed on this movie. We both had a chance to see it. We're going to get into, first, was the movie good? Secondly, what do we think it means for the future movies coming out from James Gunn and DCU? And then maybe a little bit about some casting of some other roles that we think could build upon the universe that James Gunn has created with this first movie as he enters into the fray in battling Marvel and Disney in the superhero genre. So, first of all, Sterling, I went and saw the movie. Before I tell you what I think, give me your overview of the movie. Did you like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like?
Overall, I liked it. If I was to do like out of 5 stars, I'd probably say it was a 3.5. I enjoyed it for what it was. I think you also think about, this is launching a new universe, and this is going to be DC's future if everything goes well. I mean, this is going to be, this is kind of like their Iron Man, right? They're trying to capture that same success that the MCU had. And I enjoyed it for what it was. But I couldn't separate the fact that this is just the beginning of, a future series of movies. And that's what concerned me the most, is how does this set up the future of that universe? The movie by itself, if I compare it to some of the other movies, like the Superman movie specifically, I actually liked Man of Steel better.
Okay.
I did. But, just like that DC universe that failed, even though Man of Steel was good, just about every other movie outside of it was really bad, in my opinion. The Snyder Cut version of the Justice League was all right, but I mean, that came out years later and it was already too late. So I thought this was a good start, but when I look at what they have planned in the future, it concerns me. But the movie by itself, a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I liked him as Superman. I thought overall the casting was really good. I liked the tone. It did kind of remind me of the animated series from the late 90s, and
very much so, yeah.
And I think that's good. I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think James Gunn has said tonally all the movies will be different. So Batman, for an example, could be more serious or darker, possibly. I don't know, but I liked it. I didn't hate it, right? So that's what I'll say.
You make a good point. There's been so much talk around, before I get into what I thought about the movie, there's been so much talk around the Snyderverse and what didn't work. The Man of Steel movie that came out, I know it wasn't seen as like a huge box office success, but I don't remember it being seen as like a failure. And they went on to make Justice League, Batman versus Superman. And I think the mistake that they made was, I don't know whether Zack Snyder decided this or the studio did at the time, but I think the mistake was not going and making a Man of Steel 2. Because if you look at Man of Steel on its own, I think it was around $672 million, somewhere around there, globally. It was on par with other first movie entries. If you look at like Iron Man, you look at specifically Batman Begins, when you're introducing a character that we've known, but it's been maybe a long layoff and there's a reboot, you're starting over, or a first movie. I thought Man of Steel was fine. And then they turned around and they went down this Batman versus Superman road where you're now investing in a different Batman and then different characters with the Justice League and then all the things that happened with Zack Snyder. So I think the mistakes were made were not Man of Steel mistakes. They were studio mistakes. And so for this movie, I think, the bar is set at from a revenue standpoint, even though I know you have to take into account inflation, which you do, but this movie needs to kind of do what Batman Begins did. It needs to do what Man of Steel did, and I think if it does that, it's fine at the global box office. But going back to your point around as a standalone movie, I liked it. Did I love it? No, but I liked it for what it was. I had the fortune of bringing my children and my wife with me, my family, and to see a 10-year-old and 12-year-old kids and how they enjoyed it, and they're not Superman fans. They like video games and they like Spider-Man and anime, and for them to have the first real Superman movie that they enjoyed and were able to sit through, and they got it. They liked Crypto. They liked the comic book aspect of it. That made me enjoy it a little bit more because I saw the movie for what it was. James Gunn wanted to make a movie that would bring kids in, and he wanted to stay true to the comic side of Superman that maybe hasn't been seen too much in the prior movies. And I think he accomplished that. Was it a perfect movie? No. I want to see the James Gunn cut, and maybe that won't be any better than the movie we saw at the theater, but I feel like they left some scenes that he probably filmed on the table. What those scenes are probably revolves around more of Clark, because we did not have a whole lot of Clark in this movie. That was one of the things that I had a little bit of a pet peeve with. I had another pet peeve with Ma and Pa Kent. They're from Smallville, Kansas. That's the Midwest. And when they started talking to Clark, it was like they were hillbillies.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of either interpretations of his parents.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, and I thought it was that was a miss for me. It made you feel like if you're not in L.A. or New York, you're all part of this flyover country, and everybody speaks the same, and they don't. Every state in the Midwest, has a different feel to it, and they speak a little differently than they do in the South. They speak a lot differently than they do in the South, in the Midwest. And so that was a pet peeve. The biggest pet peeve for me was, I hate to say it because I like the actor, but Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, I thought he was like a teenage Lex with a more high-pitched voice, and I just couldn't. I struggled with that a little bit. But the highlights for me were Mr. Terrific. I thought Edie did a great job playing Mr. Terrific. I liked Guy Gardner. We didn't get a ton of Guy Gardner. We got just enough, and I think his humor and the kind of the weirdness of Guy, if you know the comics, I think that's who Guy is, and I liked it. And I thought Corn Sweat, he was fine as Superman. I was not bothered by the fact that the movie opens with him losing his first battle, his first fight.
Once you find out who it is, though, it
makes sense. And so, I was fine with Lois. The chemistry between Corn Sweat and Rachel Brosnahan was very good. I like Jimmy Olsen. We didn't have a lot of Jimmy Olsen, which was fine.
I thought the casting overall was pretty good.
It was what we talked about in the early stages when the casting, that we liked this casting. I think this casting worked. And I it's not that I'm not going to end up liking Nicholas Hoult over the next few movies when we see more of Lex.
It's better than Jesse Eisenberg, in my opinion.
I liked him better than Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns. And Kevin Spacey's a great actor, but I just didn't think he was the right casting for Lex. I still have a huge love for Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor in the original Superman movies, and then Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville. If you have never gone and watched Smallville, Michael Rosenbaum kills it as Lex, in my opinion. He makes the series, and that series ran for 10 seasons. So Nicholas Hoult, better than Jesse Eisenberg, better to me than Spacey's Lex in Superman Returns. So I didn't hate it, but I struggled with it a little bit. But, to me, this was about James Gunn painting with a brush his version of this world. And there was a lot going on in this movie. Every time you had a conversation happening, which one of the main important conversations was between Lois and Superman, where she basically he says, you're skeptical, and she talks about growing up, and she was kind of a punk rock kid and not, playing by the rules, and that makes her into the reporter, the journalist that she is. and that he loves everybody. He sees beauty in everything. And he says, I think that's punk rock. And they're having this conversation that has some weight to it because it really is telling you who Superman really is. And while this is going on, there's a fight going on outside the window where the Green Lantern is Guy Gardner is fighting, and they're staving off some alien, and it is like, do you need that in that moment? It was there, every time there was something going on conversation wise, there was some action, yes, something going on around it. And it was a lot, and so I felt like pulling back a little bit less would have served the movie better. But let's get to one of the main things people are going to talk about that you either loved or you hated. What'd you think about Crypto?
I mean, I was kind of indifferent. Like it definitely helped it with that comic book cartoony vibe, which he was going for. Right. The dog's obviously he's CGI rendered, and it's a different breed from the comics as well. I believe he's a lab in the comics, which, so if you're going to do it, I don't know why you just wouldn't do it accurately, especially considering it's not even a real dog. But
right.
It was okay. That's something more for the kids. The kids are going to love. I mean, as I get older, it's just kind of silly. But it was all right. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either.
We started out, they kind of like set the expectations by showing us in the trailer, the teaser, the first one that came out. That's the beginning of the movie, so we're getting into spoilers here.
My issue was the twist, if we want to talk about that.
Yeah, so in the beginning of the movie...
Spoiler warning.
Superman has lost his first battle since he arrived 3 years prior, and he has landed, he's being taken to the fortress by Crypto, and you meet the robots for the first time. You meet 4, which is voiced by Alan Tudyk, and I thought the robots were fine. They want to strap him up to a machine that's going to zap the sun into him. I don't know why Superman just didn't fly towards the sun before he landed, bloody and beaten. That was a little confusing, but they strap him to the sun, and they said, to calm you while you're healing, we want to show you images or video of your messaging from your parents from Krypton, and so you see Jor-El, Bradley Cooper, and the Laura, the mother. And they're saying, same thing we've heard before. You come to Earth, your last son. We want you to light the way, that kind of thing. And it's soothing to him. It gives him his purpose, and that goes to your twist later in the movie. One of the things that Lex tries to turn the public against Superman is he is hacked into the fortress with Superman's DNA, which plays into the fact that Ultraman is a clone of Superman. And so that's how he gets into the fortress. And then they decode the rest of the message, which I don't know how they did that. And then you have other linguistic experts from these different nation states and governments that, again, decode an alien language, which I don't know how they did that. And to basically say that Jor-El and his wife, Laura, have told Superman, Kal-El, to populate the earth with his seed, have a harem, and to rule over Earth because they're weak. Which is like...
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
That was the one thing in the movie that I thought...
I think some of the best parts of the older movies, when Superman's kind of having a conflict with who he is and where he fits in to the Earth, he remembers the words of his parents.
His heritage.
Yeah, it happens in the Snyder films. You hear Russell Crowe's voiceover. He has a real inspirational speech. You even heard it in the Brandon Routh Superman film when they took Marlon Brando's speech. And those are some of the best parts of the movie. And now, unless they retcon it, I mean, that's not something he's going to get. So if he ever faces a serious issue where he needs to, come.
Do you think, if that's the first question, everybody said, no, it was true. They really did that. I didn't walk out of the movie thinking that it was 100% guaranteed that it was real.
What's that? I mean, if it's that's an easy retcon.
It is an easy retcon.
If they want to change that is a very easy, turns out it was fake, So
I mean, I know Mr. Terrific,
and that's something Lex Luthor would do.
Yeah,
right?
it is. And Mr. Terrific makes a comment, all these experts wouldn't do that. It's real, I'm like, that was a little confusing to me. That whole scene where Mr. Terrific gives all this credibility to it. So I didn't like that at all. I hope they retcon that. But again, we get into this rift in the universe, that the hole in the universe that Lex creates. He's got people in prisons down there, from girls that said bad stuff about him to adversaries, and Lex has been supporting these fictional countries in Europe so that he can get a country of his own, and kind of creating a false flag, a war, and it gets leaked out that Lex is behind it, and so the plot and the main villains of it, it's less about that, and it's more about the broad brush of what James Gunn wants to make this world look like, and I think that plays into where we think it's going to go. So, your concern was, you said you liked the movie. I did too. It's a standalone movie, but how this is going to play into the larger DCU, you have concern about that.
I do.
Movie.
Like even the Snyderverse. I mean, I thought they got Man of Steel right. Some people didn't like the tone. Others loved it.
I liked Man of Steel.
But I liked Man of Steel. I thought Henry Cavill was a great Superman. Outside of that, the rest of it was pretty bad. I mean, Wonder Woman was passable. The
first Wonder Woman was good.
The second movie was awful, and it flopped.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller was terrible casting for
Awful.
Flash. I mean, and to me, he's probably the fourth most important character in the Justice League. I mean, he's still pretty important.
Ben Affleck was. I thought he was pretty good as Batman.
He was passable as Batman, but again, he didn't get a solo film, they just kind of threw him in there, and so you didn't really feel
supporting character.
Yeah, and the movie comes out just a few years after Christian Bale did an excellent job in his movie, so it just doesn't. It feels off.
Bad timing.
I mean, and that's one of the biggest mistakes they made, in my opinion, is they did not do a solo Batman film to build out that universe. From a money-making standpoint, he is your biggest moneymaker. He's
right.
You can look up the numbers. He sells significantly more comics. Brings in significant. He's like the second most popular superhero, I think, next to Spider-Man overall. So I mean,
So how do they get it right? So if they're going to make the next moves they make,
well, the issue is
right?
We know their next moves, and they're already making some of the same mistakes.
Supergirl and Clayface.
Supergirl and Clayface. That is not. Clayface is a C-tier villain.
And we see Supergirl at the end of this movie, which is fine. Millie Alcott, great in House of the Dragon. Go watch season 1 of House of the Dragon. She's fantastic.
But I can't imagine. I'm trying to relate this to like a Marvel character. Like Clayface is a C-tier Batman villain,
right?
And he is getting a movie, or is it a movie or a show?
It's a movie.
He's getting his own movie in this universe. In this universe,
the shows
before
are
Batman.
The shows are Peacemaker season 2, which Peacemaker showed up in this movie.
Which doesn't
I don't know
make
why.
any sense to me.
He had like a quick little cameo commenting on Superman, and then we have the Lanterns. And Lanterns, I think, is going to be good. That story, kind of a true detective in space kind of thing, where we have Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. I think it's going to be a good series. But to your point, why wouldn't you just do Clayface as a series?
Yeah, like I just can't fathom the fact you have a C-tier villain getting his own movie before Batman.
And when you have the Penguin, which was a way better character than Clayface, and that was an awesome season.
But
that
it's
they
in
did.
A different universe.
It is. Unless they bring Matt Reeves' universe into this one, which I don't think works because
they're so far apart from each
so
other.
Different.
But just from that in itself is it's going to be a huge problem for them.
That's an obstacle because you're going to have two Batmans if you cast another Batman.
Again, and the people who are watching this, I know like it's easy for y'all to follow along and separate it. I get it. But the average person that sees that movie, they're going to be like, what the hell is going on?
Who's the other Batman?
Yeah, they're like, what is this? Is this tied with the other one? Like, wasn't there just another Batman? Like, the average person, they don't know this. Like, it's just confusing to them.
So, the next move should be a Wonder Woman movie. Get Wonder Woman right.
It needs to be major characters. And then the most important part is you need to cast well.
Which they did in this movie.
Because I did not think the Snyderverse did that. I think outside of Superman, he was the only great casting. Wonder Woman and Batman were okay.
Lois was horrible.
Lois was horrible. Flash was horrible.
Aquaman,
Actually, I did
whatever.
not like Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
Yeah,
Now he's
whatever.
playing Lobo, which I think he'll be great as
He'll
Lobo.
be great as Lobo.
I thought
He's
he
a
was an
better
awful Aquaman. And,
And Lobo will show up in the Supergirl movie. Again.
And you had Cyborg, which really isn't he was just kind of put in there for.
So it made $220 million this weekend at the global box office. That's about $50 million short of what I thought it was going to do globally, not domestically.
Well, it needs to have legs.
I think their marketing was horrible for this movie. It's got a good audience score. Most people like the movie. I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. The marketing was horrible in the lead up to this. And then once again, you had a few people here and there getting caught up in politics. There was all this stuff out there around truth, justice, and the human way. That was never in the movie. That was not in the movie. But it turned into this thing where people started getting into the politics of it. And, you've got to stay away from that when you're trying to drive a big global movie.
And the metaphor of linking a Superman who's an alien to immigrants.
You got to stay away from that. And people go, well, you're biased if you think this or that. No, you have to leave that at the front door.
Let people come up with their own interpretation.
Yes.
If somebody sees an alien with godlike powers is the same as, an
because
immigrant
Superman,
from a third world country, that's fine.
Because Superman was never going to make a ton in China.
No.
Because he's a uniquely American character. So you've got to kill it at the domestic box office and in the other countries outside the U.S. that are favorable to U.S.-based characters like a Superman. And so, made a little bit less than I thought it would make. Again, if people go back to see this movie, they like it, repeat business. It's got, about an extra week before Fantastic Four comes out. I think Smurfs is coming out, so I'm a little worried that Smurfs is going to take a chunk out of that family.
I don't think Smurfs will be that big. I think
Well,
it'll be a disaster.
don't sleep on Smurfs with the family crowd with kids.
Yeah.
So
the kids care about Smurfs. Though.
Rihanna's in Smurfs, and I'm telling you, like that, if people need to go back and
Incoming
watch.
flop.
Well, I'm
flop.
worried about it because Superman needs to have the drop for week 2 for Superman needs to be under 55%.
I think you should be worried about their follow-up films because I don't see Supergirl and Clayface carrying the DC universe.
But I'm telling you right now, if this movie ends up in the 550 range globally, it is not good for James Gunn. I don't care what anybody says. This movie needs to hit. I don't know that it needs to hit 700 million plus globally, but it needs to be north of 650.
Well, one thing they want to see, and here's a problem, and this is one of the reasons why the Snyderverse failed, is when you build those movies out, you want them to make more money, right? So and that's what happened.
The next movie,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with the MCU until Avengers: Infinity War. I mean, they just kept
and Spider-Man
building up.
Spider-Man was 850 million the first movie,
well,
$2 billion the last one.
Iron Man 3 made a lot more money than the first Iron Man. It wasn't as good as a movie,
Not
but by then,
good,
so many people were invested in the universe. That's the opposite of what happened with the Snyderverse. The movies that came out first did better.
That's right.
Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, and the ones that came out later did worse. So they need something to build up. And the issue is I can't see Supergirl doing better than Superman. I can't see Clayface doing better than Superman.
No.
So,
No, you're right. These next 2 movies, I wouldn't. That's a wrong move. Your next movie should have been Wonder Woman or Batman.
Yeah. So you need to cast well, do great solo movies, and then do your Justice League movie from there. And that's the key to success, in my opinion.
We've talked a lot about the movie, what it made at the box office, the potential of where it's going to end up. I think it's got to be more than 650. I mean, Man of Steel was 672. I think we need to see 700, 750. It can get there if the repeat business is good, but the drop in week 2 has to be under 55%. So week 2 and week 3 for Superman is going to tell the tale of what this movie ultimately does and the legs it has or not. And so we'll be here to cover it. What did you think about Superman 1? Did you like the movie? What did you think about the casting, the story, the Jor-El and the parents, the twist around that, where the DCU is going with Supergirl and Clayface coming out next, and the TV series, Lanterns and Peacemaker Season 2. What do you think about all of it? Do you agree with this? Do you disagree? While you're doing that, do us a big favor. Smash that like button. Share this video out with your friends. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel so we can continue to grow in TCB.